Welcome back to the Joy Work Show, the podcast that goes beyond the surface of business, right to the heart, to explore the real joy and the stories behind success. Not just the moments of celebration, but the challenges that pave the way for them. Hi, I'm Diane, and on this podcast, we know that joy isn't just about the good times. Often the greatest joy comes right after the greatest challenge. And today, we are going all in on the transformative power of personal style, sustainability, and intentional living with someone who knows a thing or two about making bold choices in fashion and life. Joining me today is Alex Standley, a personal stylist and the founder of Leopard Lifestyle. Alex's story is one of reinvention and empowerment from her days as a fashion buyer, how exciting, to becoming a champion for sustainability and confidence through style. In this episode, Alex opens up about her journey into personal styling and how motherhood reshaped her career path. We'll talk about how personal style can be a tool for boosting confidence, the challenges to promoting sustainability in an ever-changing fashion industry, and the pressures women face from societal expectations. Alex also shares practical tips on shopping intentionally, embracing secondhand fashion, and finding joy in dressing for yourself, not just for trends or others' approval. And of course, we'll hear her inspiring perspective on personal growth and the legacy she's building, one wardrobe transformation at a time. If you've ever felt the pull to redefine your style, navigate motherhood with purpose, or approach your wardrobe in a way that reflects your values, this episode is for you. As always, it's so much better hearing it in their own words. So grab your favourite drink, settle in, and let's go. Hi, Alex, and welcome to the Joy Work Show. I'm so excited to get into our conversation today, and I cannot wait to get to your joy questions. But before we even get there and to get us started, let us know who you are, what you do, and how you got here.
Hi, Diane. Thank you so much for having me. I'm Alex Standley and my business is called Leopard Lifestyle. I'm a personal stylist and sustainable fashion consultant. So I help predominantly women, busy women who lack the sort of time and often the sort of creativity and inspiration to find their signature style. So I came into this from a background in fashion. So my whole life has been spent and dedicated to fashion and style. But I came from a very different background. So I was a fashion buyer for 15 years for the likes of Marks and Spencer and Amazon. And it was really the birth of my daughter that kickstarted my journey with my business and starting as a personal stylist.
That's amazing. It's just so interesting because, like you, my business was kickstarted by the birth of my second child, but I'd always been interested in business, getting out there, doing something else. There's little pockets throughout my 20 plus year career that I wanted to do something else, tried different blogging, different things, but because of the hours I worked and what I did, so my babies ended up being the catalyst to this has to look different to me. Life can't look like it did before, but I still want to follow my passions and my ambitions, and I want them to see me doing something and doing something so that's what's brought me to here. And it's so interesting coming from the fashion buying side of things. So what was it that you thought when you looked around and you thought, I could be a stylist, this is what women need? What was it that kind of brought that idea to life for you?
So there's a few different things. So I'd always been interested in styling. So when I studied at London College of Fashion, I did my degree there. And it was something that I was interested in at that point. But for whatever reason, I went down the different path of fashion buying. And so it'd always been kind of in the back of my mind, like a little seed. But really the thing that drew me towards styling and towards my sort of changing career was when I fell pregnant, I started to explore the a more conscious lifestyle and sustainability, partly through the fact that I was thinking about what products am I using on my skin, like what am I putting into my body, like all of these kind of things that you haven't possibly thought about up to that point.
Yeah.
But obviously it becomes a lot more important when you're, carrying a baby and then, bringing someone into the world. And it really brought about a shift and really helped me to sort of get back in alignment with my values and my purpose and all of those things. And so I started to explore different options of how I could create a more positive impact through all of my skills and expertise. And personal styling just made so much sense to me because I wanted to be able to use all of my skills that I'd learned over that time being a buyer, but use them in helping women to feel more confident and in spreading the message around sustainability and how we can create a more positive impact on people and planet. Because I had very much fallen out of alignment with the negative impact that the fashion industry causes on people, through the humanitarian impact and also on the planet, obviously through the environmental impact. So it just all came together, really. It just all seemed to click into place and make perfect sense to me.
Absolutely. And it's such a polarizing topic and such a difficult topic, I think, with the fashion industry. But just to go a step back before we hit on that, fashion buyer sounds really glamorous. And it's one of those jobs that when you are a fashion lover, which I am, and magazine buyer ferociously throughout the years to the point that I've got a slight magazine issue I might need to deal with in my house to get rid of more toys. What does a fashion buyer do? What does that mean? What did you do?
So it kind of varies depending on if you're buying in brands or if you're product development. So when I worked for Marks and Spencer, I was basically responsible for curating and developing the product that eventually ended up on the shop floor of the high street. So it would be from the first kind of design creation stage. So working with my design team on what are the trends and colours for the season, and then translating that into the product designs and working together on like what's the most commercial products that people want to actually buy and based on what we've sold before and what's trending and all that kind of stuff, and then basically working through the product development, so working with suppliers to create the product. Used to travel the world really, sourcing materials and product and going on inspirational shopping trips.
It
And
just
it
sounds
was,
like
I
an
mean,
ideal job, perfectly honest.
yeah, there were definitely some amazing perks to it, and I miss the travel, and I miss like some of the creativity that goes into it. But in the same breath, it's like I wouldn't ever have described it as a glamorous career because it was
No,
such hard work and like such long hours and very, very demanding. I think it definitely felt like life or death at the time, even though obviously it's not. We're just talking about clothing or shoes or
I think
accessories.
so many high pressure jobs do. You know, the job I was in was
Mm.
certainly not even as creative as that or as inspiring as that. But there was times that it felt that that was my whole world, and if I made the wrong decision, that everything would come tumbling down. So I completely understand that, and especially dealing with a giant like Marks and Spencers.
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky. I think I look back, I actually bumped into somebody that I used to work with last week, and we were both talking about how we look back on that experience really fondly because it was an amazing company to start your career. And I had such great training and met amazing people and made lifelong friends there. So there was definitely a lot of positives to it as well. But yeah, definitely a very demanding and high pressure environment as well.
Yeah. So do you find now that, because obviously being a buyer for somebody like Marks and Spencers, there would be their ideal client, their ideal customer, what was successful for them, what sold for them. And was it nice when you kind of went into the stylist side of things, that creative freedom that you could have to maybe do things and be a bit more bold and courageous about some decisions to do with styling than you would have been able to as a buyer?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's very freeing to, have complete autonomy and responsibility over everything. I think that also obviously comes with its kind of downsides as well, in terms of, you're used to having a team of people around you and behind you, and going out on your own can be quite scary in that sense as well. But I absolutely love being able to, everything that I do is aligned with like my ethos and my purpose and who I want to serve. And that ultimately is at the top of all of the decisions that I make. And that wasn't the case, like, especially towards the end of my career. And I think there's something so freeing about that, where you can just know that every decision that you've made, whether it works out or whether it doesn't, is totally aligned with you and your values.
Mhm.
And yeah.
So, what does it look like if I am a business owner, woman, loves fashion? What does it look like when I come and work with you? What are the types of things that we would look at, talk about? How can clothing, the way I style them? I suppose it's two questions I'm now asking. I'm asking you what it looks like when I work with you, and what impact my style and my clothing could have on me, my
Yeah, so I'll start with that one, because I think that's the
comfort.
main reason why I do what I do. Like, it has such a huge impact on your confidence, on how you show up, on how other people receive you, on how you communicate yourself. It's huge. And I think so many of us really underestimate the power of our style as a tool, not only for confidence, but also for our well-being and for our mental health as well. Because I'm sure we've all had that feeling, like when you put something on in the morning and it's not quite right, and you just spend the whole day like readjusting yourself and not feeling confident, and not, putting yourself forward, and, not presenting yourself in the best way, and certainly not feeling confident. And then obviously the flip side to that is when you put something on that you feel incredible in, and it's, the colors that light you up, and it's just everything that makes you feel amazing. That has such a positive knock-on effect to your relationships, to how you're showing up at work, to how, what you're communicating through your personal brand and through your style, essentially. So I just think it's such a transformational tool. But I think where particularly women are quite time poor, and we've been made to believe that, caring about our style and the way that we look is quite surface and materialistic. Often that can hold women back from making their style a priority.
I think that's it, and I think you're told, and I love. It's a really difficult thing to talk about, but I love the way that you approach it, and it's not a one size fits all. You're not telling women they need to look a certain way or dress a certain thing. And if somebody comes to you, which I'm sure you're going to go on to talk about as well, is you're not saying to be corporate, you have to look this way, and to be
No.
professional, you must look this way, and all of these things in between. And I think women have so long been put in boxes
Mm,
of this is what corporate looks like. This is what going out looks like. This is
yeah.
what mummy looks like. This is what somebody over 40 looks like. I just, it gets a little bit exhausting, and almost to the point of like when you start becoming those things. And when I became a mum and when I got over 40, and I was like, I don't, this isn't what I thought I was meant to look like. And it's almost like, am I okay to do what I'm doing? Because I don't want to do that. And
Yeah.
it's about that freedom of expression, and that just be yourself and what you're feeling comfortable in. And like you say, you're much more capable of showing up if you look a certain way. And I know in my corporate career I dressed a certain way, and
Mm,
there's still some things in my wardrobe that I know I'm never going to put on again, because that
yeah.
was that job, that was that
Yeah.
thing. And I can't ever see a time where any of that stuff would come back out. But you're so
Absolutely.
attached to that image.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think women are just, yeah, so often put into these boxes, and style can be many, many things. So if I did come to you, and I was coming to you and I was like, okay, Alex, how does it look? How do we talk about style? What do you do?
So I think the biggest thing, and particularly if I'm working on clients with like my transformational package, The biggest thing always is, like you say, that reconnection with yourself, and that's something that we really lose, over time. And like you said, on becoming mum, or going through the menopause, or changing career, climbing up the ladder, whatever it is, you can end up feeling, quite out of alignment with who you really are. And so a really, really important step is that reconnection with, hang on a minute, what is it that I actually enjoy? Like, what is it that I love? Like, what are the colors that light me up? What am I actually aspiring to create with my style? Because I'm the complete, like, antithesis to putting you in a box. Like, what I really want to do is, like, really get to the heart of, like, who are you and how you want to show up. And it doesn't matter what your shape or size or coloring or background or whatever is. It's all going to be so completely unique to you, and you are an individual, and that the whole process that I take you through is all designed to really get back to who you are. So even when it comes to color, I think a lot of stylists will kind of sit you in a box, and they'll say, you're a spring, or you're a summer, or an autumn, or a winter. And as much as I use the same kind of seasonal system, I will create my clients their own bespoke color palette. So they'll get a kind of swatch book of colors, but they're all unique to them. Because everybody is so individual. Like, you're going to have such unique coloring, which is made up of, your eye color, hair color, skin color, even lip color, but also, aside from all of that, what do you actually enjoy wearing? Like, it's pointless me saying to you, you can't wear black, when that's your favorite color. So it's all about, how do we make things as flattering as possible, but also make sure that you're really enjoying your clothes, because style and fashion should be about expressing yourself, and it should be fun, and it should be something that you get a real buzz out of. It shouldn't be something where you open the wardrobe and you're like, what can I wear today? Like, it shouldn't feel like a chore.
Yeah. And it is, and I think it's that thing of like I really enjoy clothes, but I haven't always had the best relationship with how they look on me and my body, and also then knowing what suits. Because as you can see today, if you're watching us on YouTube or on Spotify or any video anywhere, I'm wearing a black jumper. But I have actually done a kind of brighter lip, and that was because I was coming to talk to you, and I decided to put my hair back together. Because I was like, I need a little bit of brightness in my face, but particularly when I put my hair back. But I don't wear a lot of colour. I do have some colour in my wardrobe. It's not like I won't wear it.
Mm,
But I don't wear a lot of colour. I do like kind of black and white tops. I like a bit
mm,
of leopard print. I know you're a fan as well. I do have some pink stuff in my wardrobe, but I don't wear a lot of colour. So when I see these colour wheels, and I almost don't want to do them, because like you just said, I love the fact that you said that you don't just say you're a summer, you're a winter, you're an autumn, and then that's it. Because I see some of these colour wheels and I'm like, I'd be really disappointed if I got the one that was like mustard and burgundy. They're not
yeah.
my colour, but I don't enjoy them, but for somebody else, they're their colours and they look fantastic in them, and they glow in them. But for me, I would
Mm,
just be like, I don't want to wear those. I don't want to wear those colours. So I love the fact that you do it for the individual and how it works for them. And if I did come to you and say, look, what I'm in, if you said, well, you're spring and you're all these colours and you're pastels and pale blues, but you can still wear black, Diane, it's okay, you can still, but maybe
yeah.
think about doing something else. And I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, and it should be such an empowering process. Like, I was talking to a client about this last week when I was doing her colours, and because she kind of had some of, I think people get quite nervous sometimes when, even though she knew that that's my process, that it's all bespoke, she was like, oh, I was nervous that you were going to tell me that, I needed to get rid of all this stuff out of my wardrobe, and that I couldn't wear this. And I was like, no, it should be like really empowering. And I think there are still some, more traditional businesses that aren't so empowering, because I definitely have clients that come to me that have had those experiences where they've been told, categorically, you must not wear this. And um, it's not an empowering process, because it doesn't leave them feeling excited or motivated, to wear things. It just leaves them feeling like they've got these like really rigid rules that they've got to stick to, but it doesn't ever feel like them or like who they are.
Yeah. I know. I think it's that thing of, making sure that people have a way that they can still express, even if they have to wear a uniform or they have to do something,
Mm,
but they've still got some way that they can still express who they
definitely.
are, what they do. If it's a lip color, if it's a scarf, if it's something that they can still do, because you do see the difference, and sometimes it really is stifling for people if they
Mm,
can't express in a way something that is fundamentally them. Some people don't see that much importance in it. So they're not
no.
bothered if it's just whatever jumper and whatever, then they can still carry on their lives regardless. I think the
Yeah.
majority of people would feel stifled if they have to wear something that they're simply not comfortable in and can't be themselves. So it's really, really good to hear that. So let's go back to the kind of polarizing topic. And I know in one of the answers to your joy questions, we will speak a little bit about the inspiration that you got from this. It is a really difficult topic with sustainability, particularly sustainability and affordability, fast fashion, what that looks like, what it means. And even somebody who enjoys fashion and has young children who I need to buy clothes for often. So, what is your approach to sustainability? How do you take it on that kind of works for you and your clients?
For me, it all comes back to that intentionality. So it really is about, drowning out all of the noise of all of the external pressures and the shoulds and the what people have told you that you can wear. And really, when you get clear on what it is that works for you, so what your colors are, what your body shape is, what your style personality is, like what you enjoy wearing, it becomes a lot easier to be intentional and to build out that kind of dream capsule wardrobe without that feeling of every season being like, oh God, I've got to, buy something burgundy this season because that's what the high street are telling me is in for the season. And it just allows you to be like really focused on, when I work with my clients, I create them wish lists. So when we work through their wardrobe, when we do a bit of a wardrobe detox, we figure out what are the key pieces that are missing from your wardrobe that would help you to kind of pull everything together and to make more of what you've already got. And they can then work from this wish list. And I do it myself as well, like each season, because, my whole background was being a part of creating those trends and getting excited about the new fashion that's coming through. So I never want to say to anyone, don't do that, because it's amazing to get your inspiration and to, freshen up your wardrobe. But I think there's a much more intentional way that we can do that and also be true to ourselves as well. So, as much as possible, if we can try and stick to a bit of a wish list each season, it helps us to be more intentional with what we're buying. And so we don't end up with those pieces that sat there unworn in our wardrobe, brand new with the tags on, because we bought it because somebody else said that it was in fashion, or we bought it because we saw it in the sale, but it never really fit us. I mean, it was like a diet inspiration or something like that. Like, there's so many different ways that,
I've done them
we can
all.
be.
I've done them all.
Yeah, me too as well. That's why I can say it from experience.
No, it is, and it's just that I think for me as well, like I have gone through all of the things that you've said, but also for me, it's even before I think about the planet and the environment and the impact on that and the impact on fast fashion and the ethics and things behind it. I just kind of get to the point where I can only wear so many things at once for a
Absolutely.
start. And also, it's just the way.
Mm,
The idea, and yes, I suppose that's an environmental message somewhere and the impact, but I'm not even thinking about that. It's just that waste of even within my own household. It comes in, it goes out, it comes in, it goes out. And I think I have become much more aware of it having children, how quickly that cycle becomes even more so. But it did make me look, because I think at one point I did say something like, "Oh, it's like the kids' full clothes. It's just it's in, it's out, it's in, it's out." But then I was realizing that at times so has mine been
mm,
like that. It's been like, I've got something coming up, I need to get something new. I've got this coming up, I need to get something new. If I get that dress, that's going to make me feel the way I want to feel. And yes, there's absolutely times that's the right decision to go and make.
mm,
But like you say, if you work with a wish list, if you look at like we've already got, sometimes it can be that piece of clothing. And even this piece of clothing that you're like, I never thought if I just put a jumper over it, or I put that jacket with it, or if I change the shoes, it's those, I suppose it's been those brave moves that you obviously teach your clients to make, that you can then think, oh, that was great because I wore that to that wedding and I had such a great time, but I can dress it down and go and do a networking meeting in it now. But if I just put a jumper over it and a pair of trainers, and actually it looks fabulous.
Yeah,
But and it makes you feel good because it also has that attachment to memories. Whereas before I'd have been like, can't wear that. I'm going to go and get something new, and it's just this perpetual cycle. Do you see
definitely.
it changing? Do you see the fashion industry changing at the moment? Do you see, obviously, you'll have a growth in clients and what they want. And when you work with clients, are they really open to this idea of using their wardrobe and perhaps looking at new places to buy?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the fashion industry is such a nuanced topic. It's, it's slower than I think it should be in terms of like the change that's taking place. And I think profit is still obviously the key driver behind most fashion businesses rather than, people and planet. And I think until there's more kind of government policies in place and things, actual legal reasons for businesses to change the decisions that they're making, I think it is going to be slow progress. But there are so many things that are happening that give so much hope as well. And I think definitely from a like consumer point of view and from my clients, like I've seen such a massive shift in the last sort of 12 to 18 months. I think when I first started out talking about this, it was like 4 or 5 years ago. And, I was educating myself at the same time as well. But I very much felt like I was like pushing water up a hill, like trying to talk to people about it. And I realized very quickly that, it needed to be fun and it needed to be creative. And, people needed more of a reason than, like you said, just what's the environmental impact and what's the humanitarian impact. But I've definitely seen perceptions change so much. Like with charity shopping, for example, there's so much stigma attached to shopping in your local charity shop. Whereas now it's like such a proud thing to say, this was like £5 in my local charity shop. And there's that whole perception has changed so much. And I think, things like Vinted have been a massive part of that because it's made it much more accessible and it's made it, easier to find what you're looking for. And it's, there's no restrictions in terms of sizing on there either. And I think, yeah, there's so many things that have happened. And I think, London Fashion Week this year was such an amazing example where you had eBay and Oxfam both opening London Fashion Week.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and it was incredible. And like you just never would have seen that, a few years ago. And so I think to have come that far in terms of what we're seeing in terms of change within the industry as well is amazing because it's changing how people perceive sustainable or secondhand or whatever. And, I always say to my clients that if you're looking for something, always look secondhand first. And there are some people obviously that are more open to that than others,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely, there's a question that I ask on my intake for all of my clients, and it's how much does sustainability influence your buying decisions? And a few years ago it would have been barely at all, or it does a little bit, whereas now I think, I mean, obviously I attract a certain kind of person because of what I talk about as well, but I don't think there's one person that I have coming in that doesn't say that it's a factor that influences
Mm-hmm.
their decisions.
Yeah, it definitely influences me. I still make some not great choices. I know I do, particularly buying the children's clothes from supermarkets and things like
Yeah.
that. But it is there and it does make me think. And it does make me think about the volume that I'm buying and then what the things that I could get from Vinted
Mm.
and have a look there first. I really try, particularly with the girls' shoes for nursery and things like that, because
Yeah.
they wear them to nursery for one day and they come back and they like let it be
Yeah.
one for 3 weeks. So it's just about making those choices and decisions and just trying to do the best that you can.
Mm.
So do you have any like top tips that you would give people to shop secondhand? like to how
Yeah.
you would, because I think some people do find it daunting.
Yeah, and I think if you're used to shopping on the high street where everything is obviously very curated and it's easy to find your size and it's all presented in a certain way, then walking into your local charity shop can be like so overwhelming, and it's not, it's never going to be, I mean, some of them are actually on a par, like the ones that are boutiques, and they are on a par with the kind of high street shopping experience, but it is a bit more of a, what's the word, like a rummaging experience, I guess, and you're not going to be like as able to be laser focused as you are when you're shopping on the high street. And I've got a couple of blogs on it, on this on my website, because it's such a big topic, but I think the main thing is again, kind of not needing to be restricted when you go in, being open in terms of size and what you're looking for. So with the high street, even sizing can be so different across the board. So when we go into charity shops, we need to have the same kind of mindset in terms of, don't just look for size 12, for example, like, look either side of that, because you might find something that's, a size 14 that's a smaller fit, or that's a size 10 that is a bit more oversized, or that kind of thing. So it's being a little bit more open and thinking outside the box when you're shopping. And I even recommend to my clients sometimes to have a look in the men's section, because you can find things like cashmere jumpers or, amazing things that you perhaps wouldn't find in the women's section. The other thing, I think, if you're not really up for the charity shopping experience, is either finding the kind of more boutique style shops. So in London, for example, there's Shelter boutiques, and they're amazing. We have them locally here. We have quite a few charities that have the boutique style shops. But there's also finding pre-loved sellers who are kind of aligned with your style personality. And, I've got a whole list of pre-loved sellers that I love to shop with, because they stock my favorite brands. It allows me to buy into some of the more premium brands that I perhaps wouldn't buy brand new. Once you can really find and identify, who those sellers are, and I've got a list on my website of some ideas of those resellers. You can find them on Instagram. That can really help you, because that's a much more curated shopping experience.
An approachable way to do it.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're looking, like you say, particularly if it's a certain designer or something like that, some of the premium brands that, or you're looking for a particular jumper that might have sold out somewhere that you can then
Yeah.
find on. It's always, I follow a couple of those resellers, and I do kind of, I see the things that I think, oh, that's the type of thing that I would want to buy, and and it's, even though it's pre-loved, it's still an investment piece.
Yeah.
And one of those pieces that will stay in your wardrobe forever. And I think that's the bits that, as I've got older, I'm more interested in having those things in my wardrobe that will come out season after season, time after time. It doesn't mean they're not pink or leopard print, or they don't need to be bland, but they're just classic style pieces. I think that's what I'm getting much more interested in as I get older, and not need as much stuff as perhaps I thought I needed when I was
Yeah.
younger.
I was going to say, I think the more specific you can be with stuff like that, the better as well. So, like, you can set up alerts on eBay, and you can save searches on Vinted. And the more specific you can be, so if you know your brand, you know the color, you know the size, with eBay, I always put, I want the location to be in the UK, all of those things. Like, the more specific you can be, and then set up the alerts. And it often is about just being a bit more patient, because I think we're all, conditioned now to want it as soon as we identify that we need something, we want it today. But actually, if you can give it, a week or whatever, you'd be surprised what does come up.
I think particularly like for those items, like you say, that sell out and things as well, like certain Adidas trainers that you might need to have linked up on your Vinted to find things. I was there. I had those links up to try and
Yeah.
find the alerts when they come, and things for the kids as well. There was some Disney things I wanted for them, and I had alerts set up, and luckily I got them before we went to Disneyland. So I think it's just really interesting when you start getting into it, and the little And like you say, it's about intention and the little changes that you can make. You're not there telling people that they have to buy everything charity, don't buy from the big stores, don't go and do all of these things. But just having the awareness of that, if you're buying from these bigger places, do you know their ethics? Do you know what you're buying into? And if you're okay with it, fine, go and do that. But it's not being blind to what is out there, and then being intentional with your own wardrobe so that you can enjoy it. And like you say, you want to look in your wardrobe and find things that you enjoy and things that you're going to make you confident that day, not just look at a load of things and think, I've still got nothing to wear, but yet I can't fit anything more in that wardrobe.
Yeah.
And I think it's that awareness of where you are and what you want your clothes to say and do for you. And I absolutely love it. So we'll move on to the joy questions that I ask everybody to get a little bit prepared before the podcast. And I'm just going to start, I normally do them the way around that you answered them, but I'm going to start with the middle one because it flows very well with what we're currently talking about and a little bit about. So I ask everybody to bring something that they inspired by joy. So a book or a mentor or a person who inspired your life and kind of where you are today. And yours really fits in nicely with what we've just been talking about. So if you could let us know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I actually found this question really difficult because I think partly because I just love learning, so I get influenced by a lot of different things. But one of the books that really inspired me as part of my journey into sustainability and really shaped my change in relationship with fashion was the book by Lauren Bravo, How to Break Up with Fast Fashion. And I still refer to it like to this day. And I think the thing that really stood out to me about it when I read it sort of five or so years ago was her approach was just really non-preachy. It wasn't black and white. It was very, it was shared through her own experience of getting off the fast fashion train. And I think she went through a year of not buying any clothes new, so buying everything secondhand. And it really shared her experience and shared her own kind of journey with how to break up with fast fashion, and gave lots of different tips and lots of different ideas of how you might change your relationship with fashion, and went a bit deeper in terms of some of the things that I talk about now in terms of really thinking about why you want to buy something. We quite often buy things on impulse and questioning ourselves as to what actually is behind the reason why we are looking to buy into that new thing that we've been told that we need. And yeah, I love Lauren. I love her. She's a great writer. She's a journalist. She's written quite a few books now as well, and I just think she's brilliant.
I mean, I've not read the book, but I remember. So she wrote for quite a few of the magazines, hasn't she? And was she writing for Grazia at the time? And I remember clearly when she did that year, because didn't have children then, so I could read magazines and things. So I remember clearly the journey that she went through, and I was completely fascinated and blown away because up till that point, when you looked at women and people that worked on magazines, it was this they had a constant stream of the ability, and you almost imagine that whole closet, Devil Wears Prada, you go into the closet and you can pick whatever you want to wear type, like that glamorous thing we talked about. We know it's not really like that, but we have that glamorous idea, and certainly not for the writers of the magazine. But yeah, it was just, and I remember really clearly her going through this. And because when somebody, and even as a writer, she had a very clear style, and you were so used to seeing this style, and I think I had always admired her style, and that kind of she seemed very original, and then to do this, and I was like, how is this going to work? And to see her go through that transformation. So when you wrote that, and I hadn't even thought about that, and even thinking about sustainable fashion, I had not thought about it until you put that on your form. And it's just fascinating that then was part of the catalyst for you to the inspiration to keep doing it. And like you say, it's that non-preachy way, because I don't think it's ever going to be black or white. I don't think it's ever going to be the easy solution of what it is, like you say, until legislations change. But and interestingly, what you said, and I think I hit on it before when I said that I always thought I had to buy, like a big event coming up, I need something new. I need something new. It's almost that thing when you were a teenager in my 20s, like, I'm going out on Saturday night, I need a new outfit, I need a new top, and it was this. That's what you were fed. That's what
Absolutely.
the belief was. But we were probably buying much less overall in those days as well, though. So
Yeah.
the treat here and there wasn't that big a deal. But I definitely fall into I will be more confident if I buy this thing. That will solve my problems. That
Yeah.
jumper, if I get that today, will solve all my problems, and I'll be much more confident, and everything will be wonderful if I get that jumper. And it's just training yourself to see it differently, I
We were
think, is the
definitely sold that narrative, like in the 90s, especially of, there's that whole storyline around like fashion as therapy and like shopping as therapy and all of that kind of thing. And she talked a lot about that in her book, about how she would just every week, if she had something that she was going to, she would go out and buy something new for it, even if it was just from Primark or whatever. And I was definitely in the same space, and I think that's what, it was so relatable and so authentic, that's what made me kind of really sit up and pay attention. Because I think when somebody is speaking from a very kind of purist point of view, where, like you said, everything is black and white, it's very hard to relate to that.
You can't relate. It doesn't seem, doesn't relate to your life. It doesn't feel like ever that you'll ever be able to reach that. And I think that's the same with a lot of extremes in our life, where they're talking about exercise, diet,
Mm,
sustainability, clothing, all of these things that we're told about and to be better on.
yeah.
Quite often when it comes from that preachy stance, you're just like, I can't do that. I'm not that person. I'm not going to go to those extremes. But ultimately, it's just the small changes that we can make with everything that can have the biggest impact if you're changing them every day and having that consistency. And I really, really dislike that thing of, well, nobody else bothers, so why should I?
Mm,
Type, even about recycling. People are like,
yeah.
well, I don't even believe it gets recycled. I don't know what bin I'm using, and I don't, and all these excuses. And I'm like, yeah, but if
Mm,
you just do it, and if you just do it and don't think about anybody else, and then if your neighbor does it, and the neighbor after that, and that's the impact. You're not creating impact. You're just doing something that's putting it in one bin and not the other. That's just quite simple.
yeah.
And then everybody else, it's the collective that has the impact. So we
Absolutely.
have to think about these small changes that we can make, not the extreme ones, and it's not black or white. So I can totally get why that was the inspiration from it. And it's definitely making me think differently, even just talking on this podcast today about choices that I'm going to make. And I'm actually going shopping tomorrow. So I definitely think it's going to
Amazing.
make different choices for me tomorrow. Bye. So the other question I ask is the joy spotlight. So that's a favourite thing that has shaped your life, business, or work.
Yes. So this one was getting back into regular exercise after I had my daughter. I think it took me a good year to feel like I was kind of ready to do that, and it's made such a big difference, to my life, to how my day goes, to my mental health, like to my well-being, to everything. And I think I started off, I actually was very fortunate that one of the mums in my NCT group was a PT. So I started off working out with her during lockdown on Zoom, and, did that for a good couple of years, good few years. And then got into, such a good regular habit with it that I then started to just do it by myself at home. And I bought my own weights at home and all this kind of stuff. And I'm part of an amazing membership online now as well, to keep that kind of accountability and make sure that I'm doing things that are, specific for women and for my age group and all that kind of stuff.
Think we're part of the same membership.
Yes, I think we are.
You can name it, it's okay.
Yeah, so I'm in the She Collective, which
Yes, so
is
am I.
run by the incredible Ro. I saw her recently in person as well, and she's just amazing. And we're very much aligned in terms of our ethos around, female empowerment and all of that side of things. So I think that's what really drew me to become a part of her membership. Yeah, I've made it just a non-negotiable as part of my day. So I get up early before my daughter at 6 and make sure that I've worked out before I get her out of bed. And then I've also try as much as I can to go on a walk every day as well. Even I walk her to school, and if I just go, after that, and even if I just go for a walk around the park, it makes such a difference, not only to my physical health, but to my mental health as well.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's probably been one of the biggest changes in my life this year as well. And being part of the She Collective has definitely had a huge impact, because I have two young kids under 3. If anything else I was trying to do, it just felt like another failure to me. It felt like another thing on my list that I wasn't getting to, and I wasn't kind of looking after anybody in the best way,
No,
because by the time I got in the car to get to a class, did the class, got the car back, it just was another thing. And people can say time is an excuse and everything else, but ultimately when you're looking after the family, sometimes that's where the priorities lie. But
definitely.
when I found the She Collective, and when not only could it fit into my day, and like you, I get up at 6, that's sometimes very difficult with a 2-year-old who doesn't like to sleep at the moment. So we
Yeah.
try and manage it the best we can. But it has become like a bit of a non negotiable, and it has become something that Ash has to help me with. And he just
Mm.
knows that that half an hour in the morning is all
Mm.
I ask. Everything else I'll work around. That's all that I ask. And he's seen the change in me through
Mm.
doing it, and also the change when I don't do it, on the weeks where it
Yeah.
has been a bit difficult. And for me, it has been just that little bit of time. It's so easy. The time is so easy. The exercises aren't always so easy.
Yeah.
And I've never strength trained before. And it has just made, and I have some health issues, I have some chronic diseases, and it's helped. I mean, the difference it has made for me. And as I say, the difference I see in the weeks that I don't, the way I hold
Mm.
myself, the energy I have. I can be exhausted after a really bad night's sleep with the baby,
Mm.
and I'll do the exercise and I'll be like, my God, I feel so much better. And it was
Yeah.
half an hour, and I did it,
Yeah.
and it was over like that. And now I get to have my breakfast and a coffee in a really happy place. So I
Yeah.
completely get where you're coming from. But yeah, it's definitely whatever, but it's just finding the thing that works for you.
Yeah. And I think with exercise, it is a very personal thing, and everyone enjoys, like you said, different things. And like my husband, for example, like he loves swimming, and he started doing that a few nights a week. Like you were saying, for me to find that time to drive to the swimming pool, go swimming, like do all that stuff, it just doesn't work with my other responsibilities and just the lifestyle that I've got. Yeah, definitely. You kind of have to make it as easy for yourself as possible so that you can get into that routine in the first place, I think.
You don't want to create more hurdles than there needs to be, when it's already something that sometimes feels a challenge, whether it's mindset,
Mm.
practicality, logistically. It doesn't really matter what it is, but you just don't need any more hurdles to get to that thing. And then, as you
No.
say, once it becomes habit, it's such a great feeling. And it has been a few things that have transformed, and it also transformed my business. It also transformed how I show up in my business and the energy that I have. And so it's not even just from a wanting to look a certain way, wanting to feel a
No.
certain way. It's the whole holistic thing around it. So yeah, I'm right on with you on that one. Both the way that we do it and the impact the exercise can have. So the last thing that I ask people of the 3 questions is the joy killer. So this is something that basically you would like to have removed from the world and never hear about ever again. And I'll let you tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this is actually very aligned with the last topic, but also just with what I do as well. So the thing that I would love to be removed from the world is public shaming on women's bodies and commentary on women's bodies. I just feel like it keeps us small, and without getting all, feminist.
Go
I
on, go
think
on.
ultimately it all comes down to the patriarchy, and in keeping us kind of small and in competition with each other. And focused on, being smaller in terms of our size and our shape, keeps us small in so many other ways as well. So it stops us from really fulfilling our potential and showing up in the way that we want to, and showing up authentically. And I think we're just selling ourselves short by feeling like we have to conform to this beauty ideal, which is actually complete BS. Like, it's not real. Like, it doesn't actually exist. Because if you think about it, this is something that I talk to my membership and my clients about a lot, that it changes all the time. In the 90s, it was all about being stick thin, and it was like heroin chic, and it was like Kate Moss and stuff like that. And then more recently, it's been about the Kardashians and, having curves and having a big bum. And then that's changed again because, it's been rumored that they've had their bum implants removed and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, it's never realistic, these kind of beauty ideals that we're trying to achieve. And it does nothing for us, for our self-esteem, for our self-worth, for our confidence. And yeah, I could talk about it all day because I'm just so passionate about changing it, and so that women can feel empowered as exactly as they are, not as who they were told that they should be.
But this is it, and it goes back to that thing, like I said, like that boxes. And I think it goes so deep. I mean, it is, because it's not only, this isn't just about the way that men see us. This is about how we see ourselves.
Mm.
And it goes so deep in that it is so ingrained in some of the beliefs that we almost believe it ourselves, and we don't even realize. And even when we see ourselves as feminist or empowered or as a confident woman, you don't even realize when you're doing it to yourself. Like I said, when I had a corporate job, I thought I had to dress a certain way for that. And then when I became a mum, I was like, I don't really know what to wear, because I've walked out the corporate job right into having a baby. So what do I wear now, and what does that look like? And do I look mumsy enough? Do I look too mumsy? What does that even mean? Like, what is... I'm wearing clothes and I'm a mum. I don't understand what's happening here. And then you get to 40 and I'm like, do people still think I'm cool? Like, when I go out, I live just outside Manchester, and like go in Manchester on the odd night out now. We were in a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, do people look at me and think, oh, there's like the 40-year-old mum over there? Or do they think, we're doing that to ourselves. That's not about the male gaze. That's not about, but it is the patriarchy that have created this, and it's so ingrained in us that even when we don't realize we're doing it to ourselves, we are doing it to ourselves. And what is the belief if we wear a short skirt or a long skirt, or show our arms, or do our hair a certain way, or wear a different type of lipstick? What are those beliefs that we don't even realize we have?
Definitely.
And having daughters, it terrifies me.
Oh, me too. And I think that's been such a big part of my journey. And I say journey because I do think it's like a life's work to find yourself and kind of become self-aware of all of those scripts that are running in your head that aren't yours, that you've kind of absorbed over time. And I think Alex Light is one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram, and I've read her book as well. And I think it really opened my eyes to a lot of the influences that I had growing up, like the TV that I used to watch and the magazines that I used to read, and how women just used to get shamed for being fat or for being a certain shape or a certain size. And it was just, you just took it as that's how it is. Like, I was watching clips that she's put on Instagram over the years of like Pop Idol, where Simon Cowell and Sharon Osbourne and people were like shaming somebody for being fat, and to me, like, she wasn't even fat, but that's not even the point. But it was just like, it's not okay to shame somebody about the way that they look.
I know.
It's just, I mean, it's a minefield, but I think the more self-awareness that we can bring to it, then, like you said, when we're bringing up the next generation and we're not, negatively talking about our own bodies, and we're empowering them to understand that they don't have to, fit in a box or fit a beauty ideal. I think that's really powerful in itself.
It completely is. And I know those clips that you're talking about that Alex Light had put up. And when I was watching them, because they were so familiar, I was there, I was sitting on my couch on that Saturday night and I saw that happen. But I thought nothing. I
No,
thought nothing of it until I'm now seeing it in this new context. And that's when
exactly.
you realise how deeply ingrained, because as a impressionable, I think I would have been teenager for some of them. I would have been in my 20s and quite opinionated by that point for some of the other ones that she put up. And I was just like, I didn't have an opinion on that. I didn't
Mm,
have an opinion on what they were saying because I was just so used to that that was the discourse, that that was the way that people spoke about it. And it's terrifying. And having, as I say, having two young girls, I am so aware of the language that I use
mm,
around myself, the way we talk about food, the way we talk about why I eat a certain way. And if I do certain things, if they're like, oh, why are you having that today, mummy? Or why are you having that for breakfast? I'll talk about it being my fuel. I'll talk about what it's
mm,
doing for my body. Why? And even if we're making different choices, if they're like, oh,
mm,
mummy, do you want some chocolate? And I don't want that day because I'm watching what I'm eating, because I do want to be healthy. But I'll
mm,
explain to them why. Mummy loves chocolate, but she's had this today and she's had enough fuel, and we talk about sugar and we talk about things because I
mm.
just don't want it to be, and I want them to move their body for health, not for
Yeah,
punishment. And I want them to eat for fuel and enjoyment, and not again either for punishment or anything else, because it's a full circle. And there's so many people like Alex out there talking about it, but it is just so dangerous. But it's so funny as well, with like you talking about that ingrained and you don't realize the things you're putting on. Like my eldest is just, sometimes there's nothing you can do or say. Like I've always told her she could wear different things, and she's had as many
yeah,
pink dresses, and she's had dungarees and everything in between, but she is a pink girl. That's
yeah.
just what she likes, and I'll have like a wee black and white dress for her and she'll be like, mummy, where's the pink one today? Just what. And there's nothing you can do about that because I've given her
No,
all the options, and that's just her.
yeah.
So there's lots out there that you don't, and me and my sister spoke about that her twins once held a handbag like this and like walked about with the handbag on. Anybody that can't see me, I'm putting a handbag over my shoulder in a really feminine way. But we never held handbags like that. We've always been cross-body bag people.
Yeah,
So where they got this image from
yeah.
and this thing to then do that, and they were like, we're mummies, we're mummies. No, but that wasn't how their mummy held a handbag. So it's just, you don't realise like how much they're taking in and like what's
Mm.
around.
They're just
And I
sponges.
just, yeah, and I just really try and I won't get it right every time. But again, it goes back to exactly what you said at the start. It's about intentions, and it's about the choices that we can make in all walks of our lives to make a difference.
Definitely.
I've loved all of them. I've really, really loved so much, and we could talk about them for hours. But
Yeah.
if the listeners want to come and find you, where is the best place for them to find you?
So my website is luxleopardlifestyle.co.uk, and I'm on all the social media platforms under the same name, or Alex Standley on LinkedIn. So yeah, you can come and find me over there.
Amazing. And I will also get those blog links off you that we spoke about earlier, and I'll make sure they're in the show notes. And Alex also does freestyle consultations that the link will be in the show notes to this episode if you want to go and check that out as well. Now, before you get to leave, I do ask one question of everybody before they leave and we finish up. And it's, what joy do you want to leave behind?
Great question. I think it's very linked with everything that we've spoken about, really. I feel really passionately about helping women particularly, but men as well, just to show up authentically as themselves and feel enough exactly as they are and feel confident in just in being them. And that's a huge part of the legacy that I want to leave behind.
I love that. Thank you so much. And as I said, I could talk about this. So many questions, so much depth that we could go to. But I've really enjoyed everything we spoke about today. Thank you so much, Alex. Go and check Alex out everywhere that she said. All the links will be in the show notes, and we'll catch up with you all later. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Isn't Alex just brilliant? I hope you're feeling as inspired as I am after my conversation with Alex Standley. And I hope you're approaching your shopping and your thoughts on style in a completely different way. As always, before we go, here are my top 3 takeaways from today's episode. Style is about empowerment. Personal style isn't just about what you wear, it's about how you feel. Dressing with intention and confidence can transform the way you show up in the world. And I think it's so interesting the way Alex wants to empower women to feel themselves and be able to show up in the best way. And in the ever-changing landscape of women doing more in the world and reaching higher levels than ever, perhaps we don't need to look the way that the image is portrayed of us to look. Number 2, sustainability starts with small changes. Whether it's embracing secondhand fashion or being more intentional with your purchases, small steps can lead to big impact. I don't know about you, but when I think about being sustainable and going secondhand and thinking about all the ways I could impact the world, as a mum of a busy household and with 2 girls, it can feel really, really overwhelming. And I love the fact that if we all just started with those small steps, then that's what can actually create the biggest impact. It feels manageable and there's something that I could do today. Number 3, growth comes from aligning with your values. Alex's journey is a reminder to stay true to what matters most, whether it's family, sustainability, or creating a legacy of confidence and empowerment. And when I'm thinking about that and thinking about the values, the way I show up in the world from my style through to my sustainability can be such a big part of the values and who I am. And I just love that Alex has given women the tools to be able to do that. And since we spoke, Alex has had some exciting news to share. She's launching a brand new Telegram experience called 14 Days to Style Icon, and it starts on January the 29th. This is your chance to work with Alex and transform your style from the inside out. To learn more or sign up, just click the link in the show notes. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could take a moment to like, review, comment or share the podcast. Your support helps us bring more conversations like this to you and to so many others who need them. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep chasing joy and making bold choices.